he's at Camp Monarch at LA Valley College for the first 4 days of the week. So save money on the 5th day and just spend some time with family.
About boundaries in general and stuff?
I believe so.
Boundaries with our kids or boundaries in school?
I think setting boundaries with the kids would be my guess. It's more Good for you. You've made a smart decision.
I only watched the first one. I didn't watch last night's episode. But I got it. And then you too. Okay, gotcha. Okay. All right. Connor, we're good. Like,
We're good to start.
for Eric watching it right now.
Okay. Hi, Eric.
So,
No, no, no. Just good. Yeah, no, no. And listen, I'll be around a lot. A lot more in a few months, especially. So we can always repeat this. And I'm always happy to share. I'm always happy to share the slideshows. So I guess I should speak. I should speak in here. Can people? This is good, right? Yeah. I'm gonna try. Okay. So. I usually always share my presentations after, so you don't have to worry about taking notes and all that stuff, and you can always come and ask questions after. For those of you that just joined now, we had a session earlier where I said that the same thing that I'll say now. I always like, when Jews gather, we always like to say a few words of Torah. And when I originally did this presentation, it was when I came in for the full one-day visit here for the parents, and I always like to live with the Parsha. So whatever the current Parsha is, and it was amazing, the Hashgacha Pratit of it all, like the divine providence in this particular case, because I was like, oh, I got to talk about boundary setting. Like, I really want to connect it to the Parsha. And then I looked up that weekly Parsha, and lo and behold, it was the Parsha where Moshe Rabbeinu, set the biggest boundary ever set in Jewish history with God. God went to Moshe after the sin of the golden calf and said to Moshe, you know what? I think we're wasting our time with these people. They're just not the people that we really want to deal with. So you know what? How about, Moshe, I get rid of these guys, and then we start a whole new people just from you. And Moshe Rabbeinu was like, no, we're not doing that. He said no. And because Moshe Rabbeinu set that boundary with the creator of the world, can you imagine the chutzpah? Hey, God, no, I'm not going to listen to you, sorry. Therefore, we are today. And therefore, we have a tremendous wealth of lessons and things to be taught, both to ourselves and to our children. So, setting boundaries and expectations with young children, something you do every single day, whether you're a teacher or a parent or a grandparent. We hopefully also do it just in our other relationships with other adults. It's an important thing. So I think most of you know a lot about me already, so this is just the agenda, boundaries, expectations, and Q&A at the end. This is my family. Well, Julian is missing because he's now living in Denmark and he didn't come on this snow trip, but these are the people I usually hang out with on a regular basis. They're a fun crew, ages 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14. We have a lot of birthdays coming up. And I just checked with Jan, everybody's alive. So there's a parenting score right there. I think most of you have information about me, so I'm going to skip over that, but you're certainly welcome to read it at a different time. So times have really, really changed, right? Before, there was so much fear-mongering in raising children, so much shaming, reproach, criticism, and inappropriate expectations. Like, just something like, if you go out on the street, you're going to get hit by a car, and then you're going to die. Like nobody's ever going to feel comfortable ever leaving their house like that. It's just not a good way to raise children. So what we're looking at now is mutual respect and equality, right? Equality and equity does not mean that we make decisions together in a parent-child or a teacher-child relationship, but it means that there's mutual respect towards one another. If you don't want me to say it to you, you shouldn't be saying it to your kid. That's a good way of looking at it. We want to validate our children, we want to validate ourselves too, and we want to validate our partners. We don't want to be dismissing them all the time. I still hear a lot in any setting that has to do with children. A child falls down. You're okay. I'm really not okay, Mom. I'm bleeding, and it really hurts. It really, really hurts. Nah, you'll be okay. But see, the problem is that a young child does not have the working memory, which is part of the executive functions in the brain. They don't have the working memory to sit down and say, I know in 5 minutes this is going to hurt much less. And in 10 minutes, the bleeding's going to stop. And in 15 minutes, it's already going to start forming a scab. And in an hour, I can probably run around again. They don't have access to that information in their brain, so they need us to help them with that so that they can feel good about it. So when we tell children, whatever, get over it, we're missing a massive opportunity of building connections in their brains. We don't want to miss those. We want to encourage our kids. We want to scaffold and have lots of patience. And we want to set appropriate expectations. One of the things that Jan and I have been talking a lot about at home is that we come from very different cultures and societies than our children. Jan grew up in Uzbekistan. He left Uzbekistan when he was 19 and made Aliyah to Israel. And as many of you probably know, Jan is 50 today. So that many years ago in Uzbekistan, he does look good. So his experience in life was food shortage, for example, right? Or if you want to eat something, you got to prepare it from scratch. Like a totally different experiences. If you want to get dishes done, you got to do the dishes. There's no dishwasher. All of those different things are things that both he and I grew up with. I didn't grow up with food shortage at all because I grew up in Denmark. It's a wonderful place where everybody's taken care of. It's really quite tremendous, wonderful way of growing up. The what? Yes, and it's been, yes, we consistently tell everybody how happy we are because we are. Even when we leave the country and we miss it. So we were talking about, Jan was feeling super frustrated. The kids are not doing their chores, or they're not doing the chores right, and why can't they put things in like this, and why can't they do that, and why can't they do this, right? Again, like I said, our youngest living at home is 10. And I said to him, Jan, when your girls were learning to walk, did you feel frustrated that they didn't do it in one day? Of course not, that would be totally unreasonable. I'm like, okay, why do you feel that this skill of organizing a home, of keeping a household, why do you feel that that's an easier skill to learn than to walk? If you ask me, it's a lot more complicated. And he was like, oh, I never actually looked at it like that, right? So really setting appropriate expectations is the key to a much more peaceful life, with whether it's young children or teenagers or middle school age kids, whatever it is. So we want to turn off that autopilot and then ask ourselves, what are my boundaries? And where did they come from? Do I even agree with them? Am I just repeating all of the things that I experienced growing up? Is it necessary? Is it necessary when your child is throwing a tantrum in the morning and you give them a treat? I had a parent a few months ago come to me, and she was like, the mornings are just so hard, and she won't listen to me, and she won't do this, and she won't do that, and then she had a tantrum this morning because I wouldn't give her her candy in the morning, and she can't have it until after school. And I was like, why? And she was like, I don't know. And I was like, well, if you in your household already have a plan that she can have a piece of candy every day, why can't it be in the morning? I don't understand. Pick your fights. Pick them, right? I'm not saying you should just relentlessly give in to your children and let them run the household, but you could certainly make it an option. Well, sweetheart, there's one candy a day. If you eat it now, it's not going to be here when you come home in the evening. And you might have another tantrum at that point, but then that's another lesson. Another connection is built in the brain. I made a decision, and it had a consequence. And it wasn't even immediate, right? There's another thing. Okay, so how much do I actually say out of loyalty to my partner? How did I feel when my parents, grandparents, and teachers spoke to me in a way that didn't feel good? Are they by default, or do I really think about this, and do I really think like this? Is this really what I want to present to them? How do my interactions affect our children, right? We want to really look at them and notice. So I try to talk to my kids a lot and really empower them. And Sometimes I don't even notice that I treat them differently, right? Because that's also just because we're all different human beings. And Joseph and Sophia, our two youngest, they very often have some pretty explosive arguments. And a couple of weeks ago, there was a big blow up. And what I usually do with Joseph is I get him to calm himself. He goes to his room, and then I go talk to him calmly later. That's for some reason not what we've been doing with Sophia. We address it right away. But why did you do that? And you shouldn't have slammed the door in his face. And that was really unreasonable and very unfair. And that's totally not who I am as an educator, right? So just let me tell you, the shoemaker's kids have no shoes, right? So thankfully, because I try to be respectful with our children and I try to empower them to stand up for themselves, Sophia looked at me with a painful glimpse in her eyes, and she looked at me and she lifted her chin and she said, "Why do you take Joseph to his room and speak to him calmly after? And why do you yell at me in the kitchen?" And she was talking to both Jan and I were like, fuck. Right? But we gave her the gift of setting a boundary and demanding respect. So was she able to say to us, "You may not speak to me like that. I will not continue this conversation until you can be calm"? No. But hopefully 3, 5, 10 years from now, she's going to be able to do that when she's in front of a peer or a boss or an unpleasant person that she's encountered or a terrible anti-Semite at Berkeley University. You never know, right? This could happen. So again, also looking at when are they happy and secure? When do they feel relaxed, right? How are we talking to them when they're showing us that? We gotta make room for those big feelings, because it's not your job to remove or protect them from frustration, worry, sadness, disappointment, anger, being dismissed by other people, or it's just not. It's not your job to protect them from that. They have to feel all of these things, and one of the biggest gifts we can give children is to make sure that they're in environments where conflicts will arise and be solved in a good, productive way. If we pull our children away from all of those different things all the time, I guarantee you, by the time they get to college age and beyond, they're going to be sitting on your couches with their hand out waiting for you to fill it, because they can't manage life. Life is disappointing. Life is hard. Life is sad. Life can be such a struggle. And that doesn't mean we should walk around and trip our kids so they're going to be hurt. Of course not. But we have to learn to embrace the uncomfortable. I'm not talking about putting up with bullying or anything like that. I'm just talking about the regular, daily, difficult things that we encounter in life. Don't feel like you have to protect them from it. When they come home and they say, "My friend really hurt me today and she didn't want to play with me and she said she hates me and she says that she's never going to invite me for her birthday party," which was 3 days ago and you were there, right? It's not our job to say to them, "Well, I'm going to speak to her mom and of course you're going to go and she's always going to be your friend." That's really hard that your friend hurt your feelings. What can we do next? How can I help you? Not, "Let me solve all your problems." How can we get through this together? There are many, many different types of boundaries. There are boundaries that are constant. It's always the same thing. It could be something like, "I don't want you to wear shoes inside of the house. I don't want you to eat in your room. I want you to sit at the dining table when you're eating. I want you to communicate with me before you go out with your friends and let me know where you're going." And then there are the ones that are fluid. They change on a regular basis. "I can't have you sit on my lap today because my leg is hurting, or I'm really tired." Or sometimes my 14-year-old comes really late in the evening. And it could very likely happen tonight. I'll get home maybe around 9:30, 9:45. I'll go plots myself down on the couch, for 15 minutes, and then she might come in and be like, "Hey, let's talk." And I'm like, "No, we're not talking now. I'm sorry. I love you. You can sit here next to me, but shh." And that's okay, because what you're teaching your children when you do that is not that you don't care about what they have to say or that you don't care about spending time with them. You're telling them that when you don't feel like being around people, you get to say no. You really do. And that's okay. You can't do that with a 1-year-old, obviously, right? You can't explain that to them. It's a little bit different in that scenario. So again, lots of different kinds, and all of them have so many beautiful benefits. So, the importance of language. This is so hard, right? Yeah, it's really, really hard. So the first thing you want to do, and this is actually a conversation I had with one of the younger, inexperienced teachers today, because she was talking to a child and she was kind of setting some boundaries and saying, you know, you shouldn't be doing this, you should be doing this instead. But after every sentence, she went, okay? And the kid was like, no. He didn't say no like that. He said it with his actions instead. And she was getting a little frustrated, and I kind of let it happen. And then I talked to her about it after, and she was like, oh my gosh, I never thought of that, right? We wake up in the morning, and the kids are, you know, you're trying to get ready, and you tell them, go put your shoes on. We're leaving for school now, okay? And the kid doesn't put their shoes on. They're putzing around doing the little thing and whatever they were doing. And then you're like getting upset, but I told you we're leaving. And inside of the child's head, it was a question. But they can't communicate that to you because they're too young. So they're not able to look at you and say, but if we had to leave, why did you ask me? Right? It's super confusing. So that okay? Get rid of it. It's much better to say at the end of a sentence, we're leaving for school now. Did you hear what I said? Can you repeat back what I just asked you to do? What comes next? Right? If you have like a set routine, you can even just look at them and say, we finished breakfast, what comes next? Again, an amazing way to build connections in the brain. It helps working memory develop. And yeah, you're just on a smooth ride from there. Lots of parents will also, and this is also something teachers do, will confuse their children by saying to them, you're too little to hold my phone. Oh, come on, you're a big boy, you can do that. Within the same, like 10, 15 minutes. Okay, mom, dad, I'm sorry, am I big or am I little? What am I? If you instead reference their age. Sweetheart, you're 3 years old, so I expect you to brush your own teeth. You were 3 years old, so you cannot play with my phone. You were 3 years old, I expect you to put your laundry in the hamper. 3 years old, so you cannot drive the car yet. Right? All of those things. You affiliate it directly to age instead of big, small, little, anything like that. It's really important that we don't make our children responsible for our feelings or shaming them. One of my most profound memories of my childhood was I had horrendous tantrums, like so bad that I would faint because my sister would tease me and I'd forget to breathe and I'd pass out. Like, it was bad. She had a lot of fun with that, by the way. She would run around the house and, like, turn around after every corner and be like, oh, wait, there she is. So sometimes we would be out grocery shopping or somewhere, and I would have a tantrum. And I would scream and kick and yell, and my mother would come up to me and whisper in my ear. And it was so hurtful to me. People are watching you. And my mother is an amazing human being, okay? Like, this is something she was totally taught from home. Children are supposed to be seen, not heard, but it really stayed with me. And for years and years and years, I struggled with the whole idea that people were watching me. It's a very unpleasant feeling, right? So we don't want to do any of that. I did talk to my mom about this, and she did apologize, and we're best friends, and she's amazing with my kids. She's coming to visit actually soon. I'm hoping to bring her to the gala on, I think it's May 19th. Yeah, I'm very excited. Okay, we talked about already, like, that you don't want to tell your children that they're okay when they're actually crying and feeling hurt. You can certainly say things like, wow, that really scared me. How did it make you feel? Right? Wow, you said you hate me. You must be very upset with me. I love you, and I have room for your big feelings. Go ahead. So you just say, so instead you just say because you're 3. Your body is not big enough to do this. Your brain has not developed enough to be able to do this. It could be, yeah, your body can't do this yet, right? It's kind of like if children want to climb trees or big structures and they're like, pick me up, pick me up. I'm always like, no, because if you can get up, you can get down. But if I pick you up into a tree, chances are you're going to fall and get really, really hurt. So it's just the same thing. When your brain and your body is ready to do these things, and your brain and body is not ready yet because you're 3. So it's really, again, yeah, it's just, yeah, but it's an excellent question. Yeah, so our words become the inner voice in our children's head, right? The narrative that we build for them is what they're going to take with them in everything that they do. So, respecting your child's boundaries, these are the do's, these are the do nots. So, respect when your child says no. Ask your child to check on other people. Don't make children say, I'm sorry. I can't even tell you. The first time I came to America, I was almost 12 years old. We went to Florida. And yeah, it was a very interesting experience. I still remember the Holiday Inn breakfast buffet. It had steak and eggs and fries, and I was in heaven, okay? It's like the best time of my life. So anyways, we're in Florida, and I'm hearing people say, I'm sorry all the time. They bump into you, I'm so sorry, excuse me, I'm sorry, excuse me. And after like a week of that, I looked at my parents, and I was just 11 years old, and I was like, why are they sorry about everything? And no one ever asks me if I'm okay. Like, it's weird. If you hurt me, like, really, right? And I'm sure all of you have experienced, you walk around in the grocery store, and somebody bumps into you with their cart, and they're like, sorry, and then they keep walking, and you're like, that really hurt. Like, really, come on, right? So, yeah, not a good phrase to use. You want your children to go up to other people that they may have hurt intentionally or unintentionally and say to that person, are you going to be okay? And then that person might say, no. And then you have your child say to that person, what can I do to make you feel better? And then the other person might say, this happens a lot in pre-K, that children will start saying, I need you to say I'm sorry. And then the other child will go, I'm sorry. But then there's been a process already. Sometimes kids will even say, 4 and 5-year-olds, 6-year-olds, even like my kids' age, sometimes they'll say, I'm not ready to say I'm sorry yet. And then they walk away. But then when they do go apologize, it is so much more validating than when you were being forced to doing it, right? So that's my sorry talk. It's always great to say thank you for your child. Don't make young children thank all kinds of people. It doesn't matter how well you know those people because they don't know them like you do. Even if it's an aunt or an uncle or a grandma or a savta or a saba or whatever it is, they don't have to say thank you to people at this age. When they're ready, they're ready. Unless it's someone that like really lives with you and are with you all the time and they made a nice meal, you can certainly insist, you need to say thank you for dinner. It was really nice that you prepared this food. But when it's in these settings where they're not common or usual and it's different, I always tell parents when they come and go in the morning, the kids are like, I'm always like, good morning, hello, it's nice to see you. And a lot of parents would be like, say good morning, say goodbye to Hannah. And I'm like, you don't have to. When you're ready to say good morning to me, we can find each other. When you're ready to say goodbye to me, we can find each other. You don't have to worry about insulting other people at all. Your child is okay. They can be small. Do you have a question? But they learn from watching you do it. So very often what happens is when those of you that are nest parents are bringing your babies and toddlers inside, the babies are not saying anything, right? And a lot of the time they don't even have the language yet. And we're not gonna start insisting that 18-month-old wave to us, for example, right? So you just model it for them. And you just say, I'm saying good morning to Teacher Hannah. It's so nice to see her. Good morning, Teacher Hannah. Oh, look how happy she was when we said good morning. It's so wonderful. And then little by little, as they get older, as you model effectively, they just start doing it. there are going to be, some of you are gonna have children that are very introverted, who are just not the hello, good morning, I'm here in the spotlight kind of person. And it could take them years to master that. And you don't wanna put them in situations where they feel forced to do it. Kind of like when parents are worried about potty training, like none of them are still potty training in their teenage years, or even in their like kinder or first grade, right? So the same thing with this. It's a skill that will come, but it's mostly not a good idea to force it at this young of an age. It's not. And I think a lot of it for us is that we're concerned how other people perceive our child, right? And perceive us. Like, my child didn't say hello to this really person, think that I am raising like a rude child, like a rude and obnoxious child. So I don't know what you're feeling. I'm saying, yeah. Yeah. So
You're not saying it's bad. You're just saying don't force it on them.
yeah. 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 Keep in mind that your children are not in control of anything that happens. So if you invite people over to your house, or you're a guest in someone else's house, those kids did not ask their parents to invite you. So we have to ask ourselves, right? Let's say that it's just you and your partner, and you had a really long day at work, and your partner brings home 3 friends and didn't check with you before, and you are not in the mood to talk to anybody. You might have a really difficult time even masking that, and you might actually get up from the common spaces and be like, hi, it's nice to see you, and then you'll go upstairs or downstairs or wherever there's a personal space, right? So it's keeping in mind that we as adults get to make all of these choices for the kids, but they didn't choose to come to preschool every day. It's not like a job for them. They're not getting paid. They're not, like, they're certainly contributing to society, and it's a wonderful experience for them. They didn't ask to be placed there. So it's keeping in mind that, and just modeling it. I don't remember any of my children ever not saying hello to a guest that came into the house, because I modeled so strongly for them the importance of having guests, right? The mitzvah of Hachnasas Orchim, bringing people home to your house. And I showed them when guests come, you welcome them, you cook for them, you invite them in, you chat with them, and when the meal is over and they're leaving, you escort them all the way to the door, and you say goodbye, and you make like a big deal of it. So the modeling of all of that, they will likely eventually bring along. Also, one of the complexities of all of the goodbye, thank you, and all that is that it often comes in situations that are unfamiliar to them. So it could be that you're going to a Hanukkah party with 20 family members, and they're all getting gifts, but it's super overwhelming and overstimulating, and they're super tired, and they can't even they can hardly function in this, right? I'm just trying to hold myself together, and now I have to walk around, and I'm 3 years old, and say thank you to 10 adults that I see 3 times a year. It's a really hard situation to be in for a young child. What you can do alternatively, if you know you have a child that's really not excited about this stuff, and you know you're having guests, before the guests come, you can have them make little welcome drawings and put them on the placemats. My children made little welcome drawings for you at your table settings. It's to welcome you. They're so grateful that you came. Speak for them. Your kids are going to hear that, and they're going to feel really validated and happy that you created a space for them where they could participate in a way that was comfortable for them. And again, just keep modeling. A lot of the times when kids start refusing, when we prompt them to say hello, goodbye, thank you, it's because they were made too early to do it. So there's not a lot of things kids can control, right? They can try to control their sleep. They can try to control potty training. They can try to control food. They can try to control the environment by having massive tantrums or just refusal. Like, I'm just not talking to anyone. I'm just not saying anything to anybody because the more you make me, the more I'm going to push back. And it's hard. It is. But again, just modeling. There comes a certain point where they're old enough, where you can say, you know what, I wouldn't do it in front of other people. Like, you can always do it after everybody has left and say, you know what, I was actually disappointed that you didn't say thank you to Saba and Safta for coming tonight. And I think it hurt their feelings too. I just want you to think about it. And it's not about putting your feelings on them in the same way that, like, with a 3-year-old or whatnot. Like, it's okay to share the feelings that is brought up for us in these situations. But most of the time, if you just allow them to grow and be themselves, all of a sudden they start saying hi. I want to say I have about 10 kids at the school that I run now, where they always say goodbye to me, and they even come over and give me a hug, but they almost never say hello to me in the morning, because they've literally been, like, dragged out of bed, stuck in a car seat, and brought to school. They're, like, still waking up. They're just not ready for it yet. So just keeping all of those things in mind. And I don't say it with judgment in any kind of way, because you also have to know your own community, and you have to know your own expectations and your own family. Just know that most of the time when we try to force something, you're going to get pushback. It's just the nature of humans. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah. No, yeah, for sure. I'll clarify. I'll clarify what I mean by that. Yeah. 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 I'm really glad you brought that up, because I obviously need to add something here, because this has to be in the context of what's happening, because absolutely, well, I want to run into the street. No, I'm not going to let you do that. No, the answer is no, you don't get to do that, right? I'm not going to respect that you want to do something that's dangerous for you. So what I'm referring to here is when you're coming, for example, to a holiday party, and a complete stranger or a grandparent they haven't seen in a long time, or someone they're not comfortable, is like, I'm going to give you a hug and a kiss. No, thank you. I don't want a hug or a kiss right now. That's what I mean. Respect when they set, like, a personal boundary of, like, and it can even be, you go somewhere and there's a seating plan, and now your child is being expected to sit next to a stranger, like a complete stranger. I'm going to be so uncomfortable the whole time. Mommy, please don't make me sit here, right? And they're not going to tell you like that. They're going to tell you in a different way. So it's in total, like, yeah. We're not talking about, you can't have a lollipop now. No, but I want one. No, that's no. that's not the no that I mean. You just walk away. You just walk away, and you say, when you're ready to have a conversation with me again, that doesn't involve the lollipop. Yeah, no. And we all lose our cool sometimes. All parents do. Don't ever expect yourself to be perfect, because the perfect parent is a good parent, not a perfect parent. It's an important thing to remember also. So the sharing part is something that I'd like to get into a little bit, because the sharing part is something that comes up a lot. I remember, I think Julian was probably 1.5 years, and we had recently moved to LA, and I took him to the park, and I was, like, pushing him in a swing, and another parent in the park came up to me and said, in 5 minutes, it's my child's turn. And I was like, what? I was like, what? I'm like, excuse me, what? I'm like, he's still swinging. I said, I don't know if we're going to be done in 5 minutes, but I'll let you know when we're done. Like, if you want, like, you know. So we very often, I walk in sometimes when I do consulting in preschools. I can walk into a preschool classroom and I can always tell when they make children share, when they have that 5-minute, 10-minute share rule. Like they tell children, in 5 minutes it's someone else's turn with a fire truck or with the phone or whatever. Children just stand around clutching toys, waiting for someone to come and tell them, what you're doing is not important to me. It's more important to me what that child wants over there. And then that child will get the thing after 5 minutes and they'll be clutching it because they know I'm only important right now. I am not important in 5 minutes. So, and what it also is that none of us do that as adults, right? I don't go into Mandy's office and say, hey, Mandy, I need your computer in 5 minutes, so you need to get off. It's my turn. Mandy would be like, how am I supposed to get my work done? Like, this is totally ludicrous. I'm in the middle of something like really amazing and incredible right here, right now. Like, I need to finish this. So we don't do this. We don't ever put this on other adults. What we do with other adults is, hey, Mandy, my computer is not working. Can you let me know if there's a time today where I can use yours? I just need to print a few things. Or at home in the kitchen, everybody has that favorite knife, right? I don't know if am I the only one that cooks a lot? I love cooking. Everybody has that favorite knife, right? And you come into the kitchen and your partner's already using it and you're like, can you let me know when you're done? Because like I got to do the cucumbers next, right? Like, so the same thing. That's an actual really wonderful skill to teach children, to ask other people to let them know when they're done, because you need to use this tool or whatever it is. So that's what the no share policy is about. We learn how to take turns, right? We develop different systems for taking turns. We know how to take a turn when we go to the grocery store, when we go to Disneyland or anywhere else. And today, for the girls in the Hasidah classrooms, they were playing outside and they were taking turns deciding what to play. And they were losing track of whose turn it was, and then one person was super frustrated, right? So I went over there and I helped them out and I said, oh, so like whose turn is it next? Oh, first it's this person and then it's this person and then it's this person. And I usually always have a notepad and something with me. I'm like, let's write down the names so you can keep track. Now we're doing literacy also, which is really great, right? Now we're learning how to write each other's names. And then everything was fine because they walked around with that paper the rest of the day, right? And they were like, I'm next. Look, Hannah, it's my turn next, right? It was amazing. So again, giving them those skills and teaching them and supporting them and having good experiences with one another so they can grow up and be like a wonderful mensch is amazing. So all of these you can like do the opposite. Like if you feel like you want to say, like your child got a really beautiful gift from somebody or somebody told them, like maybe a grandparent or an aunt or something, I love you so much. You could totally answer for your child and say, she loves you too. She's so grateful for that gift. It's okay to model it for them. And when they feel comfortable, they feel comfortable. Most of the time they will. Okay, so expectations by age. So this is really just giving you guys ideas about what's appropriate to ask your young children. And again, we'll share this. I don't know, did any of you get this before? Because I did this presentation like when I came for the visit. They were supposed to send it out to you. Okay. I think there's a way to post it on Brightwill. I think I can find a way to put it there, and then you'll have it much easier, and then you'll probably also see it. But anyways, toddlers, like really young children, can already help put away toys. They can put laundry in the hamper. They can start helping setting and clearing tables if they're like closer to 2. They should be given an opportunity to handle their toothbrush on their own after you've helped them brush their teeth. They can totally help clean the house. Like I used to when my kids were younger. It doesn't happen so much anymore because now I mostly come home too late before Shabbos. Like if I come home with time enough to like light at actual candle lighting and throw the chicken in the oven, then like I'm in good shape. But I used to come home really early on Fridays, and we would have like Shabbat cleaning. And man, would we go through baby wipes like there's no tomorrow. I would just dish out baby wipes, and they thought it was so fun to just walk around and clean, right? But you know, they wiped some stuff up. Eating independently, this is a really important thing. For those of you that might have really young children that are still learning to eat, allowing young children to just feed themselves, and it's going to be a big mess, and they toss it on the floor, but it's a huge science experiment because it's gravity and all that stuff. Research actually shows that kids that are allowed to explore food like that become much neater eaters later. It's really interesting. And don't worry, if you didn't let them do it, they'll still be okay. I promise. I also really love the idea of allowing them to make salad. So putting like a clean towel on the floor and 2 big bowls, one that has just romaine lettuce leaves and another one that's empty, and showing them just to rip lettuce apart. Now they're making salad. It's like the cutest thing in the world, and trust me, they're gonna eat tons of it as well. So from 2 to 3, this is the independent stage. I always cringe when people say the terrible 2s, because 2-year-olds are so cute. They're like the most adorable thing that was ever invented in this world, right? They're like so cute. They start talking and they like waddle around and they can do so many things. And the reason that they can be really, really impossible is because we're not allowing them to develop independence. So the more you let them, the more peace you'll have. You can't let them do everything, of course. By the way, I want to mention, sometimes you might have a child who's refusing to get dressed in the morning and they're coming to preschool. Please just bring them in pajamas. Just tell them, you can choose to get dressed now, or you're going to school in pajamas and you can get changed there. Here's your clothes in a bag. Bye. It's okay to learn that there are consequences to our choices, right? It's not a terrible thing. And honestly, you'll get to know me really well. You'll see that most of the time I look like I'm wearing pajamas. It's my favorite thing. So they can start asking for more things, of course. They can begin to help with simple tasks in the kitchen, like washing veggies and fruits. There are lots of child-friendly knives now. I actually started working with a woman whose name is Dr. Nimali, and she's a pediatrician somewhere on the East Coast, and she developed a really cool program called Dr. Yum that I'm hoping to bring to the school also. It's a whole curriculum about just developing healthy eating habits and food and all kinds of stuff in the preschool classroom. And they have these super cool knives that you can buy on Amazon, and they literally don't cut you, but they totally cut vegetables and fruits. It's the weirdest thing. One of Jan's girls, actually the older one, has like, I don't know how she managed to never develop any kind of like knife cutting, cooking, anything skills. And she's totally aware that she's like a big klutz in the kitchen. So I brought these knives home and I'm like, Sasha, these are for you. You're never gonna cut your finger again. And she's like in heaven, because now she can do all the things she wanted to do safely, because she was really cutting herself very often. Like it was really like not good. So again, meeting your kids where they're at, right? And allowing them to participate in those things. Help care for pets is a beautiful thing too. I don't know if you know, but it's actually, if you have pets, it's a mitzvah to feed your pets before you eat yourself. It's like a very cute little thing that you can teach them about. So 3 to 5, they should consistently be cleaning up after themselves, right? This is another example where you're like, it's time to clean up. No, yes it is. I'm not listening to that no in this situation, so that's a good way to bring that up again. They can start making their own bed to make it look just neat and nice after they've been asleep. They can start really wiping after the bathroom more and more independently. The best thing to do through potty training, when they ask you, no, you have to wipe me. No, just keep wiping until the paper or the wipe comes out clean. Just keep at it. You can certainly check them in the beginning, but you want to start encouraging more and more independence in this particular area. They can start helping cutting and prepping food. They can brush and floss mostly independently. They can keep track of their belongings and at school. And they should be able to follow like 3-step directions and even more as they get closer to 5. And they should be able to play independently for extended periods of time. There's been a lot of issues in the last, I would say, probably 10, 15 years as children have more and more screen time. They have a really difficult time figuring out how to entertain themselves, and that's why it's so good to have those breaks in the day where you really do like a siesta or even like, so for most of us in this community, we probably don't keep Shabbat like the Orthodox community does, but I think it's really beautiful to have times, whether it's on Shabbat or other times, where you just say, this is just screen-free zone. Like we're all taking our phones and our tablets and we're putting them in this basket for this hour and a half. I used to have that for many, many years, and I actually think I need to go back to it again. But I used to, like, when I would do back to school night every year, I'd be like, you can call and text anytime, but I will never respond from this hour to this hour because that is cell phone free time in our house, and that is only us being together, and nobody else gets to be part of that. Like, we have a strict, we sit at the dining table and eat dinner together every single day, and the phones are not there. None of our phones. It's like really something I find is so important, and I can't tell you, I mean, listen, we have a massive household also, right? Like, we have 7 people at the dining table every night. So, but we have so many great conversations because of that. And that doesn't mean that every family is going to have that, and we found out not so long ago that one of the reasons we have a lot of conversations is because of Joseph, our 10-year-old, who always has something to say. He's much like his mother, blah, 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 all the time. And I was like really annoyed. He wasn't home like on a Friday night, like for Shabbos, and I was like, why isn't anybody talking? And I'm like, Jan, this is like ridiculous. And Jan's like, it's because Joseph's not here. I'm like, no, don't be ridiculous. It's not just him. Next day, Joseph was back. Oh, Lord. Yep. So everybody is different that way. Okay. So, setting boundaries and expectations help children succeed in life. 8 skills we need for a meaningful and successful life is collaboration, communication, content, all of these different things. And all of those are connected to learning how to set and respect boundaries from other people. We cannot communicate with people if we don't know how to set and respect other people's boundaries. We cannot like, there's so many of these things, like you can't have teamwork, right, if you don't respect other people's boundaries. We can't, none of this exists. So many of these things are really, really important and comes from working with your kids like this and raising them like that. I think this is it, maybe. It is. Any questions? Any? Yes? Yep. Mm-hmm.
Child number 2 is used to having a sibling,
Mm-hmm.
or a parent. Like, she always wants some fun with stuff.
Yeah.
How do we?
I see her play independently in school. So she knows how to do it. So she might not want to. I'm just saying, I just want to assure you that she does have the skill. I think, yeah. And I think it's just really her way of saying, I really love having company. And it's just okay to say, I'm not able to play with you right now. Where could you play where you would feel like I was still kind of part of it? Would you like to be, like, if it's because you're busy in the kitchen or you're busy working on something or whatever, like you can always set up like a workstation next to you. I used to do that a lot with Julian, actually, because Julian was a lot like that for a while. So if I needed to sit and work, like if I was doing lesson plans or what, I was teaching pre-K back then when he was little, I would be like, listen, I'm doing my lesson plan, so here's like marker and papers and whatever. And then he would sit next to me and do something. We're just all different, right? I'm much happier around tons of people. I would say it's really only in the last, maybe it's actually, and I come to think of it, it's probably like a COVID result. I became really comfortable being alone during COVID. And I never was before. And now I actually like seek it out sometimes. But for the most part of it, like I am dreading, my kids are gonna go to their dad's house for like 9 days on Friday. I'm not gonna see my kids for 9 days. I'm like, I'm gonna die. And the house is gonna be so quiet. It's gonna be bizarre. Like, I'm going to be so lonely and just like there's no noise or anything. And don't get me wrong, I enjoy it also sometimes, right? But I think we're just all different people, and it's okay when we have children that are highly social and want to seek that out. And it's also okay to disappoint them and say, but I can't play with you right now. I understand that's really hard for you. I hope you're going to figure it out. It's okay for you to be bored. When I'm bored, I like to just lie on the floor and look up at the ceiling. Like, you can give them ideas like that, right? Go try that for 5 minutes. Here, set a timer. Like, you can get the sand timers, for example. It was a great thing to give kids. They love looking at those things. So and we can always talk more about it also to give you more ideas, because I'm not sure, in what situations it comes up, but that's what I would suggest. Just embrace the discomfort. It's okay. I don't have to entertain you all the time. You really want me to, but I'm just not doing it. It's like Sophia wants to go to the mall every single day, all day long. And we're like, no, I hate the mall. I love online shopping. It's a beautiful thing that was given to us. I do love farmers market, but that's very different than my food thing. So. So they might. Yeah. So you just remind them. So you know, because I teach online every 2 weeks. I teach a BA class, and then every week I have a class in the EDD program on Zoom also from 4:30 to 6:30. And there's been many times this past year where I've been home teaching. So I got like a really good headset that like doesn't pick up on all the other noise. And I set up like I first had like my desk in our bedroom. And I was like, I can't sit up here. Feel so isolated, and I don't want my office in my bedroom. Like, it's like it doesn't belong in there. So I brought it like downstairs, and the kids come and sit under my desk with the dogs. They just sit there with me, and they're like reading books. Sometimes they're playing games also because they're older, you know, like they're not little kids anymore. And sometimes two of them are sitting down there together and playing a game together, and they're chatting and talking. And every once in a while, I have to look down and be like, "Hey guys, I have to ask a question." Shh. You know, like, or I have to remind them I'm giving a presentation today, so it can't be super loud. So it's about trying to navigate it, and it's super hard if you're working from home and you're always like having to like create spaces where they're not interrupting you. But yeah, that's kind of how I try to manage it. And it's also okay if it doesn't work. Right? You can also say to them, well, we tried, but that did not work because I'm not getting my work done. So this is too distracting, you know. So, yeah. Any other questions?